Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to give my year-end review of Infinite Warfare, and basically what I'm going to do is just go over my likes and dislikes about the game and how I felt the year went with Infinite Warfare and how they handled updates and that sort of thing, and just how I enjoyed playing the game. So we'll get started into multiplayer. I'm going to go for multiplayer, campaign and zombies, but we'll just get started with multiplayer because that's the main what I play throughout the year. So the first thing I'm going to go over is combat rigs. So combat rigs are comparable to specialists in Black Ops 3, which I'm going to be honest here, I didn't like specialists that much in Black Ops 3. They felt pretty overpowered in both the weapon aspect and sort of the ability aspect as well. More so being the weapons, the likes of the gravity spikes, the purifier, the Sparrow and the Annihilator not so much, but even Ripper, which I used throughout the entire year and I didn't see a problem with Ripper. I can now see how it would have been a problem because it's basically Commando Pro in specialist form. So yeah, the weapons weren't very well executed in Black Ops 3. However, in Infinite Warfare I feel as though there's pretty good balance between the weapons and the abilities for combat rigs. So abilities are, I think every rig has one or two abilities, at least one, at most two, and I think the exceptions would be Striker with the Gravity Vortex gun and the Micro Turret. Micro Turret kind of is a weapon and an ability, and Snapstick with Propulsion and Reaper. However, Reaper also kind of classifies as an ability because it doesn't give you a weapon, but it still kind of is a weapon. So I feel as though they balanced the combat rigs pretty well this year, with abilities not really being OP in the slightest. There's ones which are kind of better than others, such as the likes of Rewind or maybe FTL, not FTL jump, but Phase Shift, and the likes of those kind of, but I wouldn't say there's any which are OP or anything like that in terms of abilities. In terms of weapons, I would say there's always going to be, with the likes of a special system or a super system or an ult system, there's always going to be some aspect of OP in that sort of system. So in Overwatch there's ultimates, in Destiny there's ultimates, in COD now there's ultimates, it's the same thing, and no matter what you do, there's always going to be some sort of OP weapon in some shape or form for one character. It's not as bad in the likes of in Overwatch or in Destiny because it's kind of more skill based and tactical based and you have to wait to use it, but in the likes of Black Ops 3 or something you can gravity spike in the middle of a room and kill everyone. In Infinite Warfare I feel as though this was executed pretty well because there's no weapon which I would look at and be like, yeah, that's OP, other than potentially the Claw. However, I feel like that is more just easy to use, which you're going to hear me use a lot in this video, saying easy to use instead of OP, because that's basically what it is. So I would say there's no gun in Infinite Warfare in terms of combat rigs which is blatantly OP, but there are ones which are better than just others and are kind of annoying to die by, such as the Claw. But I feel like it was handled a lot better this year than Black Ops 3. Another thing combat rigs have are traits, which is basically secondary perks. I really like these because they could be perks, however none of them are really better than any base perk in the game. I don't want to use the likes of Power Slide or Perception over Blind Eye, Ghost and Scavenger. I just don't want to. So I feel like having them as secondary perks are a lot better, because if they were taking up perk slots I would feel like I'm wasting a perk because they don't really deserve their own perk slot. So having them as secondary perks, i.e. traits, I think works a lot better. The next point is movement system. So I feel as though Infinite Warfare, this is personal preference, but I feel as though Infinite Warfare has the smoothest movement system out of AW, Black Ops 3 and IW. What I mean by this is that AW and Black Ops 3 had quite a jerky sort of movement system, so Black Ops 3 felt like more of a more clunky version of Infinite Warfare. You moved a lot more suddenly. If you start jetpacking you moved kind of instantly, whereas Infinite Warfare kind of has like an acceleration to it, and it was kind of the same in Advanced Warfare where you moved just suddenly up and vertically and side to side and stuff. So I feel as though Infinite Warfare was the best execution of this sort of this advanced movement system. Obviously I think wall running is really good in Black Ops 3 and IW. Wall running is really good. However, I feel as though it might have been executed a bit better in Infinite Warfare as well, because it just seems smoother. You can also aim well and kill people whilst wall running, whereas in Black Ops 3 your gun jumped all over the place when wall running. So it wasn't really that practical, but in IW they seem to have kind of emphasised the movement system, which is maybe why people didn't really like the game that much, because they emphasised movement system a lot more in Black Ops 3, but not nearly as much as AW. So yeah, but I would say if they ever make another advanced movement game, which I reckon they will, but it'll probably be a few years, I think they should do it with the IW movement system, or build upon the IW movement system, because I feel like that's the smoothest one and the best one to use. I also feel as though the weapon balance in Infinite Warfare is pretty perfect. You're never going to have perfect weapon balance. If you have perfect weapon balance, all the guns are basically identical to each other, and there's always going to be a gun which is blatantly better than another one, or one that you'll see like used more often. So every Call of Duty has these guns which are quote unquote OP. Advanced Warfare had the BAL and SL1, Black Ops 3 has the VMP, M8 kind of, and the Brecci, and IW kind of has the MP4 and the K-Bar. However, they aren't OP, so to speak, they're more just easy to use. If I use the K-Bar, sure, I might do better than what I usually do. However, it's not going to be by a great margin, and it's also just because the gun's kind of easier to use and handle. The K-Bar and MP4 are kind of guns which are just beginner sort of guns, or guns that you just use if you don't really want a challenge, which is kind of the same with OP weapons in games. However, I just feel as though they aren't as OP as the likes of the BAL or the SL1 or the VMP or the Brecci, because they do actually require some sort of skill, and you aren't going to pick them up and just suddenly do really well with them. You also don't see a full lobby filled with MP4s and K-Bars, whereas you, back in AW, around this sort of time of the year, back in Black Ops 3 at this sort of time of the year, I don't know Black Ops' current state, but you would see like entire lobbies of Breccis and VMPs, or you would see entire lobbies of BALs and SM1s, whereas in this game, I haven't really seen full lobbies of MP4s and K-Bars. Sometimes there's like a couple people using it, but I've never seen like the entire lobby use it. So I feel like they did pretty good gun balance in this game. In addition to that, I also feel like there's no gun in the game where I would feel I was at a disadvantage with. In the likes of Advanced Warfare, there was the AMR9, which was just poo. You know, it was straight up terrible. But, you know, if I used that, I would feel like I'm just putting myself at an unnecessary disadvantage. But in Infinite Warfare, there's no gun which I would use and think, yeah, no, I'm going to do terribly. Because there is no gun in the game which I personally feel is bad. Apart from maybe the Howitzer, but that, you know, that's a launcher and you're not meant to get kills around. Another point that I want to make is weapon variants. So weapon variants obviously were in Advanced Warfare as well, and that's the only thing we can really compare them to. But in Advanced Warfare, the only way to get weapon variants were from supply drops, and the weapon variants were kind of OP. Or at least the epic ones were OP, were greatly better than the base variant. So the likes of the BAL, Obsidian Steel, the Inferno, that's greatly better than the base variant BAL. The SM1 Speakeasy is much better than the base SM1, and whilst the base versions of those guns are good, the epic variants or the elite variants back in AW are way better than those. So in Infinite Warfare, you can get variants by crafting them through the prototype lab. Now some variants are locked behind the Quartermaster collection, however I'm pretty sure there's maybe only 3 variants that are base guns in the game which are locked behind the Quartermaster collection, being an ERAD variant, maybe an EBR variant, and the MV for Prosperity, I think. But in Infinite Warfare, you can craft basically all of the base weapons variants in the game via salvage, which is pretty easy to get, you know, via mission teams or supply drops or contracts. And you can also get them from supply drops, obviously. In addition to this, also, all the variants seem pretty balanced. There are ones which are just better than others. You know, the epic variants feel better. You know, some of them feel better than the base version of the gun. However, some completely change the gun and are really comparable to the base one. I.e., the Mauler Sentinel shoots slower, but shoots 5 bullets at a time in a vertical column. This isn't necessarily better than the Mauler. However, it kind of feels like its own gun, and therefore it isn't really a better variant of the Mauler. It just feels like a completely different gun. So I feel as though they did variants very well in this game. The next point would be DLC weapons. In Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 2, the only way to get DLC weapons is from supply drops, or in Black Ops 2 when they occasionally do a triple play bundle. In Infinite Warfare you can get DLC weapons by having the season pass and all the base variants given to you, or by doing challenges for the guns. However, I believe you can't do this for the Venom X, the Katana and the Nunchucks. However, these I would say are okay, because the Venom X isn't anything special and neither are the 2 melee weapons. So I feel like that's okay, but I feel like they maybe should have been challenges anyway. But they have challenges for basically every DLC weapon in the game if you don't have the season pass, and you can also get them from supply drops per usual as variants. So I feel as though they did weapon variants really well this year, and I really hope they continue that moving forward with the likes of COD World War 2. I hope like they're 100% going to be adding DLC weapons in the supply drops, I reckon. However, I really hope they go the IW route of giving season pass owners direct access to the weapons, and also having it so as you can do challenges for them if you don't have the season pass. However, you never know, it might change. Something else which was added in a bit later into the year is score streak variants. So yet again we're comparing this to AW score streak quote unquote variants. So AW didn't really score streak variants, it had more modules that you added onto your score streaks. However, you had to add on more modules in order to make the score streak good. However, in AW you can unlock score streak variants via salvage. You can't get them from supply drops, you can only get them via salvage, and they make the score streak better. However, the score streak's already good to begin with. So I feel as they executed this really well. There's no score streak variant which is OP in my opinion. They all have a buff and a debuff to it. So the likes of the advanced UAV, I believe, is a constant radar instead of pulsating. So it shows you their direction and where all the enemies are constantly, but it's up for less time, so it's not OP because it's up for less time. There's also the likes of the Epic Counter UAV, which destroys all equipment and score streaks on the map. However, it costs like as much as a warden or something like that. So, you know, they have really good balance between the score streak variants, and I feel like they executed that really well, and I would even say better than AW, because AW, you had that modules on to make the score streak variants better, where the score streak's better, and there was some OP ones like the threat detection UAV and that sort of thing. Something else which is comparable to Black Ops 3 or was brought over from Black Ops 3 is the taunts. So I feel as though in Black Ops 3 the taunts just got outright stupid like halfway through the year. They started adding in dabbing and with nay-naying and stuff, and I feel like that was one of the things that kind of turned me away from Black Ops 3 in a sense, was just the cringiness, and the game started not taking itself seriously anymore. In IW, I feel as though they made taunts more era and environment kind of appropriate. You're not going to see some FTL rig just randomly dabbing in the middle of a, you know, in the winner's circle. You're not going to see Synaptic start with nay-naying or something like that. Instead, you're going to see some really cool taunts, such as the pull grab one, or maybe the adrenaline one, where your character injects himself with nano shots. I think that taunts were executed really well in Infinite Warfare, and another thing that I want to say is gestures are amazing. For some reason, IW seem to have a really good animation department, or gesture, you know, like whoever makes, or whatever team makes the gestures and taunts, do a really good job, because I feel as though Infinite Warfare has the best animations ever in COD that we've ever seen. Because in Black Ops 3, like, the taunts looked kind of, they weren't that polished, and also cringy, of course. However, in Infinite Warfare they all look pretty impressive and all like smooth and stuff. They look really polished as well with like the gestures and the taunts, so I feel as though they did a really good job with that. And I really hope the gestures come back in some shape or form. Sadly not in World War II, because it's weapon inspect, I think, from Modern Warfare Master, which is in COD World War II. However, you never know, maybe in IW's next game there'll be gestures again, which I really hope there is. Another point is weekly game modes and events. So what I mean by this is the featured game modes that get cycled into the game every week. I feel as though this was a really good idea, because if these game modes were added into the game as normal game modes, such as TDM or Domination, you could just select and play them whenever, they wouldn't have that big a player base, especially the likes of Reinforced SNR, because they aren't very popular game modes, and they're kind of like a certain type of player plays them, and certain people play that game mode. Whereas with the featured game mode, people who wouldn't normally play that game mode might play it because it's only there for a week. It means that if the likes of someone who absolutely loves Reinforce, if it were in Infinite Warfare as a base game mode, it might not have any population. You know, it might literally have like 10 players playing it. Whereas because it's a featured game mode, whilst yes, it might not be there for a month or a month and a half, when it does come around, there'll be like 1,000 or 2,000 people playing. This is obviously just random numbers I pull out of thin air, but you know what I mean. There'll be more players playing the game mode if it's featured than if it was just a base game mode. I also think that some game modes maybe don't necessarily work if they're just a game mode that's in the game, such as Gesture Warfare, which I love Gesture Warfare. If it were in the game constantly, the novelty of it might wear off. And the likes of All or Nothing also is a novelty game mode. I reckon it's a party game mode, but it's also kind of a novelty game mode, which, if it's there for a week, yeah sure, I'm going to play it a few times. If it's there the entire time, I'm not really going to play it that often. Another thing, coming off from this point, is bundles and events. So the events I'm talking about are Days of Summer, Halloween event, the Christmas event, really good events. I especially like the Christmas event and Days of Summer, because the Christmas event I really like the fact there was Christmas Genesis, or whatever it is, Evening Genesis, which I really like the fact that there was a dusk version of Genesis, and I really wish they added that in. I really hope they add that in for Christmas this year, because I would definitely back IW to play that. My dream event for IW would have been the Days of Summer event combined with the Christmas event, so having a festive map, but having the Days of Summer sort of variants and camos and gear in the supply drops. So I feel like if they had have combined those, it would have been the perfect event. But the events this year have been pretty good, and I really enjoy them because they're nothing like we had in COD before. There's not really been any events like that before in COD, so I feel like having these events kind of keeps the player base up and keeps people excited for them. And obviously DLC weapons being added into the game helps as well, and there was a pretty regular 4 or 5 week gap between each one and each drop, and I feel like that was really good balance between them. Bundles is also a really good idea, having it so as you can pay like 400 keys for a triple play bundle and get a guaranteed Epic Mark II weapon which you don't have. I think that's a really good thing because it means that you could potentially get guaranteed to get an epic weapon that you want, however you might not want to spend salvage on it, or maybe it's in a Quartermaster collection. I really like the fact that triple plays exist, and it also means that there could be a bundle such as 10 rare supply drops, and for the likes of triple play, 10 rare supply drops and a few hacks, and the hacks are basically a bonus because 300 keys is 10 rare supply drops. So bundles I think they should really bring back, and purchasable with keys, not just COD points like in Black Ops 3, because with Black Ops 3 you can only buy bundles with COD points, which isn't a good thing, and IW did definitely 100% better. The next thing is nuke variants, which we're kind of getting off onto the tail end of multiplayer here. Nuke variants are stupid, kind of. They're also kind of good. At the start of the game I thought nuke variants were stupid because it kind of encouraged people to be sweaty, and it kind of meant that, oh yeah, I have to use this gun in order to get a nuke. You're not going to use a nuke variant and play normally, you're going to use a nuke variant and play sweat. You're going to play full on tryhard. So it kind of changes the playstyle of people and makes them more sweaty. However, it makes the game more balanced because it means you can't get a nuke with the likes of the NV4 flatline or something in hardcore, because that would be broken. So nuke variants kind of balance the game, but they also bring out the tryhard in people, so they're both a good thing and a bad thing, but you can't really win in that situation. Another thing which Black Ops 3 did as well is Black Sky camo and gear, which was obviously hero gear and Dark Matter in Black Ops 3. I feel as though this was done better though in IW because the challenges were more, it's more challenging to get Black Sky and the gear in Infinite Warfare. Keeps you doing it for longer in my opinion, and I feel like the challenges were manageable because on the likes of Black Ops 3, one of the challenges for the Spartan were to get kills on certain score streaks, destroy certain score streaks, which I didn't like at all because that was all to luck. Whereas in Infinite Warfare, they don't really have challenges like that. They have challenges which are pretty manageable and you can do them whenever, so I quite like the way they did challenges in this game, and I really hope that in future COD games there is Black Sky / Dark Matter camo and gears kind of bonus. So we're going to get on to the dislikes that I have about Infinite Warfare multiplayer now. So first thing, this should be pretty quick though, is Synaptic. Propulsion and Rewind, why do they exist? Why? Just why? Rewind is basically glitch from Black Ops 3, however you can see where the person's going, which is fair enough. However, they can still see everyone whilst they're rewinding, they're invincible whilst they're rewinding, and also refreshes their entire ammo. So it's kind of OP in my opinion, and it shouldn't really exist, or it can exist but just not refill your ammo. Another thing is propulsion shouldn't exist. Just shouldn't. In Infinite Warfare you refill your boost pretty fast anyway, and you can boost for quite a while. So having propulsion just makes it so as it's just a jetpack vest, which no one wants. So I really hate propulsion, and therefore I hate Synaptic. NV4 and K-Bar are also kind of a thing I dislike, however that's more just because they're overused in a sense. They aren't really OP like I said before, they're just kind of easy to use. It's not really like I can complain about the NV4 K-Bar, it's more so I can complain about the players who use them, but that's just a small thing. Another thing is Quartermaster Collection variants, but they kind of have to have that, because Activision the business, they do have to make money, so they do have to have variant stock behind the Quartermaster Collection, but having base variants of weapons, DLC weapons, unlocked is a good thing. Having access to them pretty easily is a good thing as well, so that's justified in my opinion. One thing which is more of a glitch or an issue or something is restarting the game in order to join friends. I don't know if this is a thing in PC or PS4, but on Xbox One, pretty regularly, if you're playing the game for, let's say, an hour and then your friend comes onto the game, you might not be able to join their game, or they might not be able to join yours, and you will have to restart your game in order to be able to join your games, which is kind of just, it's not that bad, it's just kind of inconvenient in a sense. So it's not like it's a big complaint I have, but it's just kind of it's inconvenient. It only takes a couple seconds, you know, to do. Another thing, I suppose, which I should say, is the fact you can skip the intro cutscenes for Infinite Warfare and Black Ops 3. It was the most annoying thing, having to sit through near a minute of just loading screens and the intro thing saying, this game is made by Treyarch, this game is made by Activision, you know, whereas in Infinite Warfare you sit through it once, oh yeah, this game is made by Infinity Ward and it's published by Activision, it's also made by Raven, but then you can skip it after the first time, so I feel like it's much better because it loads the game a lot quicker. Another thing is spawns are kind of stupid sometimes, but that's every COD game, and also out-of-map glitches, which seem to happen a bit more in Infinite Warfare. However, I haven't really experienced any of them, but I've seen people on Reddit post about them, so maybe that's just why. Maybe every Call of Duty game has these sort of glitches that I just haven't realised because I don't really come across them. So, I don't know. So that's multiplayer over, finally. Overall, I would say multiplayer is pretty good. It's probably my favourite multiplayer so far out of any COD game that I've fully on played throughout the life cycle. And it was being Ghosts, AW, Black Ops 3 IW, and I did play Black Ops, I did play other multiplayers, but out of ones I played extensively, IW is my favourite, and yeah, I would say it's probably 7 or 8 out of 10, it's not perfect, I would say probably more so 8 out of 10, because it's pretty good, but there's also some complaints I have about it and it could be better, so 8, maybe high 8, I don't know, but pretty good. So anyway, we'll move on to campaign. So campaign, I don't really have much to say about this because it's campaign, but it's quite different from any other campaign in Call of Duty. You can play it yourself, you'll find out yourself, but I quite like the fact that there's the main missions and the side missions. However, I feel like there could be a few less side missions and a bit more main missions, but all in all I think it's pretty good. And if you haven't played the game on realistic, if you complete the campaign once and then go and play it on realistic, it's a completely different experience, because you have full on, like, if you get shot in the arm, your gun goes flying out of your hand, and it's really cool. I've only gotten not that far to like the second or third mission, but it's really fun to play, and it's definitely an experience. So even if you just play the first mission, it's an experience that you should definitely witness, and it's really fun to play. I would also say that Infinite Warfare's campaign also is a really good campaign. It's probably one of the best ones, but it doesn't really feel like a COD campaign entirely. It feels more like it could be a standalone game by itself if it was a bit longer. So that's pretty good though. I would say it's more pro than a con. But yeah, that's more or less campaign for you. The next mode is Zombies. So I've only played Zombies recently really. I played it for keys during double keys and that sort of thing, and I would play Rave quite a bit in order to just get to like 25 rounds and then reset and keep getting keys. However, recently, since a month and a half ago maybe, 2 months ago maybe, my friend and I started doing Easter eggs and Zombies and playing the maps a lot more. So I played Zombies quite a bit now, and I feel like I played it enough to give my opinion on. So the first thing I want to say here is that I really like the fact that music's incorporated into the maps, and it's different eras of music that are incorporated into the maps as well. I really like the fact that the Zombies in Spaceland is the 80s, and then Rave's the 90s, and then Attack the Radioactive Things the 50s, and Shaolin's the 60s. I really like that sort of aspect. Sadly, there's no music in The Beast from Beyond. However, it wouldn't really make sense to have music in The Beast from Beyond. Seems how it's in like way in the future, so we don't really know what's going to be music or in the future. But you know what I mean. I really like the fact that there's music incorporated into the maps, and the fact it's different eras, because it keeps it interesting. It keeps it pretty diverse in each different map, a different experience. Something in black. The next point is new weapons being added into Zombies as soon as they're added into multiplayer, as opposed to Black Ops 3's way of doing it. So if you don't know, Infinite Warfare, whenever DLC weapons get added into Infinite Warfare, multiplayer gets them immediately and Zombies gets it immediately. However, when this is done in Black Ops 3, multiplayer gets the weapons immediately, but the Zombies has to wait till the next DLC to get maybe 1 or 2 of the guns that are added in DLC. So for example, in Gorod Karuvi, the FFAR is a gun you can use from the box. However, in the likes of Zetsubo or Horizon Tracker, you can't use the FFAR because the FFAR wasn't made prior to Gorod, I believe. However, in Infinite Warfare Zombies, even though the likes of the Auger was made after Spaceland, you can still go back to Spaceland and use the Auger because it was added into all the maps. So I feel as though this is something they really should have done in Black Ops 3, but they just didn't because maybe tried to be lazy. Even though it probably would have been easy to do. I also really like the fact that there's the gunsmith, which obviously the gunsmith, it's not called the gunsmith, is it? I don't know, but I'm gonna call it the gunsmith. The gunsmith, where you can add attachments and stuff to your guns in Black Ops 3. This didn't let you do it to DLC weapons, however in Infinite Warfare you can. Obviously there's also variants in Infinite Warfare, which is another point I'm gonna make, where I really like the fact there's variants in zombies in Infinite Warfare. This surprisingly wasn't a thing in Advanced Warfare, even though there's variants in multiplayer, and I feel like there's variants in Infinite Warfare which are made for multiplayer, and there's ones which are made for zombies. The likes of the Type 2 Butcher is more or less made for zombies, and the likes of the Sentinel is more or less made for zombies as well, because they're so good. I just really like the fact that some of the variants, which you can just buy with salvage, you can just buy the Type 2 Butcher with 4000 salvage, and it's like one of the best guns in the game, and it's really good in Raven Redwoods especially, or the Mother Sentinel, which is really good as well. You can just pick those, you can just buy those with salvage and then bring them into a game and use them. So I really like the fact that the variants are a thing, because they just make the game so much more fun in zombies especially. The next thing is Easter egg rewards, which I can actually comment on now because I've done 4 out of the 5 Easter eggs, maybe even 5 of them by the time the videos come out. But Easter egg rewards is a big thing which I really think they did well, sort of, in Infinite Warfare. So in Infinite Warfare there are rewards for doing Easter eggs, but mainly they're just being able to play as the featured character, celebrity person, in that map. So if you complete the Spaceland Easter egg, you're able to play as the Hawk in Spaceland. If you complete the Raven Redwoods Easter egg, you're able to play as Kevin Smith. However, the only map where you actually get something that you can use in the map after you do the Easter egg is Raid and Shaolin, I believe. Shaolin, you get a katana which you can use in any map which happens to the Easter egg. It's just buyable off the wall in the dojo, which is pretty good. I really like that. They should do that for every map. They should add in to it. However, obviously we can't do that now. But in Raven Redwoods, if you do the Easter egg, then you will pick up the slashers, chainsaw from the basement area where the power switch is, but you can't do that after you end the match. You can't go back into the match and pick it up off the wall or something like that. You can't at the time. It's only available in the game when you do the Easter egg, which I think they really should make it accessible whenever you want after you do the Easter egg, whatever. So that could be done better, however, we're still lucky we even got that, I suppose. Another thing is that the Easter eggs are very fun to complete and rewarding. The Easter eggs don't really have anything, there's no steps in Easter eggs which I'm like, I don't want to do this. Or there's Easter eggs which are a bit more tedious, and others such as attack and reactive things. That Easter egg is literally just running by the map picking up things, but it's kind of more relaxing as opposed to having to kill zombies and sacrifice zombies and stuff like that. I really think the Easter egg steps are very good in Infinite Warfare, and I really like the style they went for them. And the boss fights aren't extremely difficult, they're just challenging and they take a while to get used to. The likes of the Spaceland one isn't that difficult to do after you've done it a few times, but your first or second attempt you're pretty much guaranteed to just fail it. The same thing with the Rat King, the same sort of thing with the attack reactive thing, because the laser step is something you only really get good at after doing it multiple times. So it's something that the boss fights aren't extremely difficult, they just require repetition in order to get them down. The likes of the Black Ops 3 boss fights, such as the Horizon Draka, whilst yes it'll get more easy after you do it a couple times, it's also very challenging to actually do it with the Panzer and everything. It's more so down to luck than anything else in certain aspects. Another thing which kind of tails on from the Easter egg rewards thing is Director's Cut. I feel as though this is a really good reward for doing all 5 of the Easter eggs in Infinite Warfare, because it's something that it adds incentive. People who maybe play play zombies casually will hear about Director's Cut and be like, oh, what's Director's Cut? And they'll be in a game with someone in a public match and someone will have Director's Cut and they'll see double powered weapons from the wheel or something, and they'll suddenly want to go into the Easter eggs and get Director's Cut. And I feel like it's a really good incentive to get people to play zombies more, and it also is really good for people who play zombies a lot, because it means that if you play zombies a lot and you do all the Easter eggs, you're actually rewarded for it and you get some sort of prize for doing it, essentially. Something else that I think is really good is there's a lot of incentives to do Easter eggs and repeat the Easter eggs. So there's the incentive to do all 5 of the Easter eggs and get Director's Cut, but then after you get Director's Cut there's the incentive to do all 5 of the Easter eggs again with Director's Cut in order to do a secret boss fight, which you can only do after you do each Easter egg like 10 times in total. And once you do all the Easter eggs, twice, you're able to do this super boss fight, which in doing so you get a playable character in Zombies in Space Land being Willard Wyler. You also get the Director's Cut camo, so there's a lot of incentives to actually keep doing these Easter eggs, and I think that they did it really well this year with adding incentives instead of just saying, oh yeah, if you do all 5 Easter eggs, you get the RK5 as your starting weapon, like in Black Ops 3. So I think they did really well in Infinite Warfare, and I am very happy with how they did zombies this year. Something else is Fate and Fortune cards, which I feel is a lot better than the Bubblegum system in Black Ops 3. In addition to this, I feel as though Bubblegums are a lot more OP as opposed to the likes of Fate and Fortune cards, and I also feel as though Fate and Fortune cards are more useful. Bubblegums in Black Ops 3, they only really, there's useful ones, there's ones which are kind of, like the Phoenix Up, which I don't actually know if that's the name of the Bubblegum or the name of the Fate and Fortune card. But there's ones like self-medication or something like that, which is one that just revives you with all your perks, and there's ones which keep your perks after you go down, and those ones which, whilst they have similar ones in Infinite Warfare, you also have it so as you don't have Perkaholic or the OP ones you don't have as cards. There's also ones which are different from Black Ops 3, such as Hide and Seek, and there's a bunch of other ones which just are more useful and more useful for Easter eggs and that sort of thing than any Bubblegum Black Ops 3 really is. So I feel as though they balanced Bubblegums, or they basically balanced the Fate and Fortune card system better than the Bubblegum system, is what I'm trying to say. I also like the core mechanic of the Fate and Fortune card system more than the Black Ops 3 Bubblegums, because in Black Ops 3 you had to buy a Bubblegum from a machine, and basically not only did you have to roll a slot machine in order to get your Bubblegums, you also have to roll a mini slot machine in game in order to get the one you want, whereas in Infinite Warfare you basically get access to all 5 cards when your meter's filled up, and then you activate it, and then you have to fill up again in order to get your next one. You can also refill your cards again from a machine, from the Fate and Fortune card dealer person. So I really like the fact you can do that, and I really like the way they just executed Fate and Fortune cards, and I think it's much better than Bubblegums. Another thing which I'm just going to build upon from the last point is Ghosts and Skulls. Whilst I've only done one Ghosts and Skulls machine, which is the one in Beast and Beyond, which is arguably the easiest one from what I've heard, I think it's really good side Easter egg for people who play the game a lot, and for people who maybe they do all Easter eggs or something like that. Maybe they've done all Easter eggs, they've got Director's Cut or something like that. Maybe they'll be like, oh yeah, there's Ghosts and Skulls, which I'm going to turn off Director's Cut and go do this Easter egg because I really like playing zombies and it's my only game mode that I play. It's a really good Easter egg for people who maybe struggle with doing the boss fights, therefore they get permanent perks by literally spending more time and using skill and that sort of thing in order to complete the Easter egg. And I think it's a really good side Easter egg, and it's a really cool mini sort of thing that they have in order to kind of add more content into the mode without breaking it. So I think it's a really good way to do it, and it's a really good reward, also getting permanent perks for doing it. Another thing is perks. So Black Ops 3, I believe the only perk they actually added was Widow's Wine, which, they had 6 maps in Black Ops 3, and they literally added in one new perk, I believe, which was Widow's Wine, like I said. In Infinite Warfare, I feel as though they just did a lot better with perks. They had Deadshot Daiquiri, which in Black Ops 3, which was renamed to Deadeye Dewdrop, which I don't actually know if Deadeye Dewdrops is in Spaceland or Rave, but it's in Shaolin and afterwards, I believe. But it's basically Deadshot Daiquiri, only it does increase headshot damage. You also have Bomb Stoppers, which is essentially a better version of PhD Flopper aside from the flopping aspect, so you don't get damaged by explosives, and your explosives also do more or less 2 times the damage. You also have the likes of Change Chews, which was added in Attack the Reactive Thing. It does some sort of special effect explosion thing whenever you get headshots, I believe, but I'm not really sure. It's kind of like the double pack effect in Black Ops 3. That's what I compare it to, at least. I haven't used it that much because there's more useful perks in my opinion. And the next perk, the last perk, is Trailblazers, which there was back in Black Ops 3. There was a petition about Banana Colada, which basically is what Trailblazers is, and it allowed you to slide and create like slidey servers behind you, which basically kill zombies. This is basically what Trailblazers is, only lights them on fire. So I think it's a really good perk, really good fan service as well, and it's actually a really good perk, and it is not actually as a stupid perk, which is just fan service. It's a good perk, which is fan service, but also is really good to use. So I think it's a really good perk that you should add it, and it's kind of fun to use. So I really like that. Another thing is boss battles, which was added in recently, where you basically just play the boss fight, which in its, by saying, oh yeah, you can just go and play the boss fight without doing Easter egg, that sounds like, oh, okay, cool. But at the same time, it also encourages people to start speed running the Easter eggs, and it makes people competitive by how quickly they do the Easter eggs. It also means that whilst this sort of thing could have existed prior to boss battles, it also means that you don't have to do the Easter egg building up to it, and if you say fail the Spaceland Easter egg, you fail the boss fight, you don't have to redo the entire Easter egg, you can just keep repeating the boss fight in order to get a better time, which I think is really good and really encourages sort of like a competitive spirit into the game, and I really like that. It's also really good for practicing boss fights, which is probably the most practical use for it, and it's definitely the use I would use for it, and it's definitely what I would use it for. It's a really good game mode, and I think it's just a really good addition to the game. Whilst it might not be the most creative addition, I think it is definitely the most useful addition. And then kind of just to round it all up, there's also lots of stuff just to do, like Ghosts and Skulls, like the Easter eggs, like a bunch of side Easter eggs, such as getting the high rounds, such as boss battles. They have a lot of content in IW Zombies that Black Ops 3 doesn't necessarily have, and I think it's just really good game mode, and I really enjoy playing it, and I would probably say it is better than Black Ops 3 Zombies, but that's all down to preference. Now we're going on to the dislikes, which there aren't many of, but there's a decent few. So weird zombie spawns is my main complaint, because occasionally, not occasionally, a lot of the time, zombies will spawn out of the floor, which it is, I don't like it for two reasons. So there's a lot of spawns in the floor, especially in likes of Rave or Shaolin or something, or Attack. Zombies just spawn randomly out of the floor. Now, the main complaint with this that I have is that you could be running and a zombie can spawn out of the floor in front of you and to your side or something like that, also hurt zombies behind you, which means that you get trapped and you get downed and you end the game. Another thing is the fact that it basically makes windows irrelevant, because zombies just spawn out of the floor, and even if you put up the windows, it doesn't really buy you any time, like in Black Ops 3 Zombies. Therefore, I feel as though it's useless having windows if zombies just spawn out of the floor as much as they do. And whilst it's not necessarily a bad thing having them spawn out of the floor, it kind of just makes it stupid to have windows in the first place, other than getting points. Another thing which is kind of a big complaint, but not necessarily from me, kind of from other people on Reddit and such, is that whenever new weapons are added into the game, occasionally they will be broke and you won't be able to get them from the box or something. This happened with the models. I believe the salvos, it might have only been with the salvos, you couldn't get them from the box whenever it was released. If you saw it in the box and you had it on as your weapon variant for the models, if you tried to get from the box, it just would give you an empty hand. You wouldn't get any gun or anything. It would just take your gun and not give you anything. So it was a waste of 950 points. It also got rid of the gun you had, so it wasn't that useful. And yeah, this also happens with the Augur Pumpkin Pummeler, I think it is, in week 3 of Halloween event. So this might be patched by the time this video goes up, but yeah, it's a glitch, it's a new weapon, and they should really test their weapons before they go into zombies. They don't seem to do that, but that's a complaint as well. My more or less last complaint about IW Zombies is the fact that some variants are just straight up broken in zombies. So the likes of the EMC Switchblades, which are unpack-a-punched, they are basically mini Type 2 butchers, which is arguably one of the best weapons in the game for zombies. It's basically just mini Type 2 butchers because it's semi-auto, but it's also akimbo. You can make them akimbo mini shotguns, which are semi-auto, and they basically do as much damage as the butchers, but they just don't fire as fast, and they don't have as much ammo. So it's basically a mini Type 2 butcher, but when pack-a-punch, they just turn into regular EMCs and they just shoot bullets instead of shells or whatever it is. So yeah, that's a broken variant. There's other ones which they escape me currently, but there's ones which are just straight up broken, such as the EMC, which, you know, I suppose like the salvo as well, where actually if you pack-a-punch the models, I believe they do less damage, so that's a thing as well. But yeah, they need to fix that sort of thing, but that's basically the main thing about IW Zombies. A trade-off for it being a really good game mode and really fun game mode is the fact that some variants are just straight up broken. My last complaint is Ninja Zombies. Do I need to say anything else? So that's more or less Zombies multiplayer and campaign rounded up. However, I've got a few universal things that I want to talk about multiplayer and zombies. So the first thing is fast loading times. I really like the fact that whenever you go into a match in multiplayer, it will load the map in the lobby and then it will start the match and you'll be instantly into the game. I also like the fact they do that for zombies as well, because it basically skips the loading screen, and I think that's much better. Like I've said before, restarting the game to fix your problems, such as not being able to join your friend's game session, that's a thing. It shouldn't happen, but it does. So it's a minor complaint because it's only inconvenient and it only really wastes a couple seconds of your life. But stacked up, it becomes quite a nuisance, and yeah, that's a minor complaint, but it's a complaint nonetheless. Another thing is playlist updates sometimes just lose your progress. So if you're playing a zombies match, and I don't know if this still happens, but it's happened to me a few times, where if you're playing a zombies match and it's like going over a playlist update. A playlist update happens whilst you're playing the match. You end the match, you come out of the match, and it will say playlist update required and won't give you any keys or XP. I don't know if this happens on multiplayer, but it might well do, and I think it's stupid that it happens, but I suppose there isn't really a way around it, so, it is what it is. And then there's also issues with keys occasionally, which is like kind of what I said, but sometimes people just don't get keys after they finish a game, which they've explained on Twitter that it's just the UI not showing that you got the keys, which could well be, and people just don't really care after the next game, but it's a thing it's a complaint, but it's a minor complaint because it doesn't happen consecutive games, it just kind of happens for a game or something like that. One thing I forgot to say about multiplayer is the fact that when you're joining a game, you can see that game's in session. This is really good because it means that if you see a game's in session and there's like an MP30 and there's like an MP30 party, for example, you can back out the game before it starts and you don't waste your time. So I think that's a really good thing that they have, and I hope they continue that in the next games. However, I have a feeling a lot of these features won't be added in to World War II, such as the fast loading times and the join-in session thing. That's about it, so I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like, maybe even subscribing, and I'll see you next one.